Hey FlossTube, welcome back. This is my 80th FlossTube video, and I'm excited to share with you what I've been working on this week. First of all, I want to welcome you. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope that you enjoy the things that I have to share with you. And if you are coming back to watch my videos, thank you for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. It's been a great week, and I'm excited to share with you what I've been doing. Today's going to be another busy day for me. I've got a sprinkler to fix in the backyard. I've had lots of problems with my sprinkler system in the backyard, and I'm still working on trying to get everything fixed. So I've got that to do. Also, I have started playing organ for church again, so I've got to go down and practice and get ready for tomorrow. And of course do all my normal Saturday chores. So hopefully sometime today I'll find time to get this video posted. It's been a great week. Oh, the other thing that is going on is my son is driving down from Utah. We'll be excited to see him. He decided he wanted to spend spring break with us, but this is the first time he has made the long drive without either my wife or me with him. So it's kind of a new adventure for him, and he's old enough, he's responsible enough, he can do it. It's just kind of one of those things, one of those firsts. You hope that everything goes okay. He's not alone. He's bringing down one of his former roommates and one of my youngest daughter's friends and her boyfriend. So there's 4 in the car, and they should be fine. But you know, it's just one of those things. So we'll see whether or not they make it this evening. Before we get started, I just want to respond to some comments that were made on my channel since my last video. First of all, Care Bear asked me about my diagonal stitching. She said, "Why do I do it that way?" And it's been a while since I've talked about that, I guess. I first started stitching in columns and rows, and I was worried about I was worried about the lines. I was worried that I would see lines between the columns, and so, or between my columns or my rows. And so I started feathering them. And then I thought, you know, it'd be kind of fun to see how a design developed if I stitched diagonally, and that would make it so I wouldn't have to worry about feathering. I would just be able to just run a straight diagonal, because my theory is that any lines that are there would be harder to see than if they were there in rows or columns. So there's 2 reasons why I stitch diagonally. The first is to try to avoid lines, and the second is because I like the way the pattern develops that way. Lorraine asked me about Winter Quaker. Of course, that's the design that I stitched last week. She asked me if there are any specialty stitches in it. And yes, Lorraine, there are. There are eyelets all over the place. There are Algerian eyelets. And I neglected to point some of those out. I've stitched some of those already. In some of the motifs, there's eyelets. And then there's snowflakes. I don't know if you would call those specialty stitches. It's back stitching or maybe white work, I don't know. But of course, there's a whole bunch of little back stitch snowflakes that are all the way through that are kind of specialty-like as well. Veronica asked me about reversible stitching. So we'll talk about reversible stitching a little bit later. She asked, why would you want to do it? And I don't know that, I mean, I guess it's kind of a vanity thing. No, it's kind of, it requires a certain amount of skill or technique. I don't know that I call it skill, but it's a different technique to make your back look as good as your front. And I'm doing it just kind of to learn the technique, and I also kind of like the results. And I'll share with you a little bit more about my back stitching, about my reversible stitching in a little bit when I show you what I've been working on. I had that question on Instagram, so I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about about what reversible stitching means and what I've been doing so far. Linda asked me if I knew of any chart that has marigolds in them, marigold flowers, and I'm afraid I don't. I don't know of a chart of marigolds. So I'm going to put it out to you guys. Do any of you know of a chart that you could stitch that has marigolds in them? And I would appreciate it if you could help Linda out. If you do know of a chart of marigold flowers, could you put it in the comments below, and we'll see if we can help Linda find a chart that she would like to stitch. Okay, in my last video, I gave 3 tips of things to do when you start a large project. And Hilma gave me another tip, which I think is really good, because I've had people, every once in a while I get a question like this. She said, and this is mostly for people who are just starting out, she said, before you start, do a test stitch to see whether or not you want to stitch 2/1 or 1/1 or 2/2 to decide how many strands of floss you want to use, and also how many, if you want to stitch over 1 or over 2 if you're using linen. I think that is an excellent tip, because I've had people say, if I'm starting a HAID, how many strands should I use? And I really can't answer that question for you. I can tell you what I prefer, but you may prefer something different. So I would suggest, if you're having those kinds of questions, just take a little square of the fabric that you're going to use and try different combinations and decide what you like best. And of course, as you get more experienced and you know what you like, then you don't have to do that. Like I determined a long time ago. There are a lot of charts in, like, For the Love of Cross Stitch that say stitch this on 28 count over 2 with 3 strands of floss. 3 strands of floss is too much for me on 28 count, and I would never do that. But there are charts that say that. And so but I've tried it and I know that I don't like it, so I know that I'll never do that again. So you just kind of have to play around a little bit and decide what you want. So that's a wonderful tip if you're just barely starting out. So thanks, Hilma. And then finally, Debbie asked me, is it hard to use the Valdani threads on Winter Quaker? Those threads, they can be a little bit temperamental. I've had them break. So I think other people have said this, use shorter lengths. If you use shorter lengths, you will be fine. But as far as they're 3-strand floss that you stitch all as one, you don't have to worry, because they're all wound together. You don't have to worry about your stitches looking uneven or not as neat. So they're really nice in that way. You get a really nice defined stitch, and it looks really neat. But if I stitch with longer strands, I've had them break, especially if I'm back stitching. I've had one strand break quite a bit. So you have to remember to use shorter strands, and I tend to use longer strands than I should. So that's the biggest thing that I've learned, is I need to use shorter strands, and then you're just fine. And they're really nice. The colors, as you've seen on Winter Quaker, the colors there's some really deep, bright color, really deep, nice colors with the threads that I have been using. So that is all the questions that I have. Thank you so much for your comments, and thank you for all your well wishes with my daughter. She continues to do well. We talked to her yesterday, and she's doing well. So I'll be excited for her when she actually goes to Argentina. So thank you for your comments. I'm always glad to answer any questions that you have about anything. So let's talk about what I've been working on this week. I have been working on the Queen Sampler. This is a design by Darlene of the needles Prayse, and it was published in the early 2000s, so I guess about 20 years ago. And it's been reprinted, it's been made available again, and then there's also this stitch guide that was done by Vinson of Needlemade Designs that I'm using to work. This has the changes that Linda made to the design and her suggestions for floss colors, because evidently the floss colors have really shifted over the years, and the colors that were originally suggested in the design do not look very good anymore. So this is what I've been working on. I'll show you a picture of what this looked like the last time you saw it. And when I first started this piece, I didn't have a lot of time to stitch on it, so my progress from the previous time wasn't very significant. I am stitching this on 37 count Russian tea cakes, linen. It's a kind of an off-white color. It's really nice. And I am using it's mostly Soie d'Alger. There's a few other silk flosses that are used. And as I mentioned, I am using Linda Vinson's conversion. So this is what it looks like now. And so as you can see, I have been able to finish two more bands. Well, I finished the first band of letters, and then I stitched this band with the acorns, and then I also finished the third band, which is another row of letters, along with the dividing bands. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what's in here, but first of all, I'll give you a little bit closer look so you can see what it looks like up close. Those acorns, I really love this band. This is all satin stitched. The vine is satin stitched and the acorns are satin stitched. And they just really look really nice. So yeah, I've really enjoyed working on it. A little bit of detail about this. I mentioned last week that I'm stitching this reversibly, and I had a couple of people ask me, what does reversible mean? And it means that the front is, the back looks as nice as the front does. So this is the back, and as you can see, all the letters still look like they have squares, and these other bands look the same as well. And it's been a learning experience for me to stitch this way, because I've had to figure out how to do cross stitches that look the same on the back and the front. So this top band here, these pink bands, are called alternating double back stitch. And what that means is you can see you're changing the side that you're stitching on. So where it starts out, it looks like kind of like cross stitch, and then if you were to look on the back where you have this line of double back stitch on the back, it looks like cross stitch, kind of like cross stitch. So the way you stitch it is basically you're making two alternating back stitches on two lines, and depending on where you're making the alternating back stitches, you get the kind of what looks like a row of cross stitches on the front. The letters are stitched in reversible cross stitch, which, as I mentioned, means that they look the same on the back and the front. It looks like cross stitch on both sides. And there are several techniques that you can use to do that. There are like 3 or 4. Linda Vinson has published a design that's a backstitch letter sampler that you can use. She gives you 4 different ways that you can do reversible cross stitch. I'm using her second method. The second method is that you have to have a way to change direction to the other leg of the cross stitch to make it look good on the back as well as the front. And the way I chose is that you make a full leg and then you do a quarter stitch to change direction. And I have learned, as I have gone on, I've learned how to do that neater. I've learned how to use quarter stitches to do partial stitches and then come back and finish making the stitches, which is really, I think, has made my stitching a little bit neater. It looks really nice on here, but there are places where I think I could have done a little bit better. And part of that, it's been a learning process. So if I could stitch these letters up here using the techniques that I've learned by the time I got down here, I think it would look a lot better. There's another method where instead of using a quarter stitch to change directions, you do a vertical stitch on the back to change directions. What it does is you have to think about where you're going and how you're going to make these letters. Some of these letters were a real challenge to figure out how to even travel from one stitch to another. So you learn how to think about how to travel without making a mess on the back. What else can I say? Yeah, so if you want to learn how to do this, I would suggest getting Linda's reversible cross stitch sampler and use that to decide what method you like best. I'm kind of tempted to try using the first method, which is using vertical stitches to change direction, but I'm kind of cemented into using quarter stitches instead right now. This band is all satin stitch, and satin stitch, of course, looks the same on the back and front. The only challenge here was to figure out how to bury my thread so that I didn't make, how to travel from one place to another so that it looked the same. And then these 2 blue lines are alternating, are double back stitch, which is the same as this, except for I'm just doing it all on one side. So if you look at the back again, you see it looks like I have two parallel rows of back stitch on the back. So, and like I say, this has just been, I've really enjoyed working on it. It's a challenge for me, and it's good to have a challenge. So that's mostly why I'm doing it that way. The stitches lend themselves to that, and it's teaching me stuff. This next band is the band that I'm kind of worried about because it has surface embroidery on it. It's going to be a band of grapes. So there's going to be a vine that goes like this, and then there's going to be clusters of grapes. The grapes are stitched in spiral trellis. Spiral trellis really scares me. So that's going to be my big challenge, I'm afraid, is figuring out how to make spiral trellis look nice. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm putting this up. It will come out in a couple of months, and then we'll see how that goes. So there it is, the Queen Sampler by Darlene Osteen, using the Stitch Guide by Linda Vinson of Needlemade Designs. So yeah, that's really exciting. So what am I going to be working on this week? I am going to be working on the Red House Sampler by the Sampler Company. This is a design by Brenda. This is my New Year's start, and we are doing a stitch along for this. So if you want to join in the stitch along, you are more than welcome to join. All you have to do is, if you will post your progress on Instagram, You can use the hashtag BTL Red House Sampler. And if you use that, then I will see your progress. I have really enjoyed watching everybody and watching everybody's progress. It has been fun. Some of you are ahead of me, and I'm looking forward to getting to the same place that you are. So I am stitching this on 36 count parchment by Week Starry Works. It's the Zweigart base fabric, and I am stitching with one strand of floss over 2 threads. So this is what it looks like right now. You can see I finished the top border and I finished the alphabet, and now I'm working, there's like clusters of plants and animals through here, and I'm working on those. So this is what it looks like right now. So I'm really excited to get back to work on this. I'm going to be working on this, this set of plants, and then I'll move over and do the same thing over here. They're basically the same, but in mirror image. And I'm really looking forward to this. This should be a fun week for me. I've missed this sampler, especially watching everybody else on Instagram stitch it. So I'm looking forward to working on it. So that's all I have to share with you as far as my stitching goes. I have something else that I have to share with you. I received some project bags from the Fat Quarter Shop, and they're pretty cool. My wife even likes them. She says, "Oh, I could come up with uses for these." They're like gingham, and they're kind of a nylon mesh bag, and I have 3 different sizes. So there's the blue bag. This bag is huge. I mean, this is like a tote bag without handles. They have a nice zipper, and they also have a square bottom, so they will hold a lot of stuff. So there's this large bag, and there's a medium-sized pink bag, and then a small gray bag. And I think I'm going to start using these to hold some of my projects. If you would like, I have an extra set of them right here. And I'm making these available for a giveaway. So if you would like, if you would like this set of bags, you can enter my giveaway by commenting down below. If you will use the keyword gingham, I will know that you are eligible for this giveaway. And we will draw a random name using the YouTube random comment picker next week to see who will receive these bags. So that's all that I have. As always, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, feel free to subscribe so that you can be notified when I post new videos. I always love to hear from you and would be glad to answer any comments or questions that you have. And also feel free to like this video. If you want to follow my daily progress, I am at blitstitch on Instagram, and you can follow me there. I hope that you have a great week, and we will talk to you later. Goodbye.